Well, hello there. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk a little bit about program development from the Chief Academic Officer's perspective. One of the most important processes that you'll be involved with is the uh, creation or implementation, as well as development, visioning associated with developing a new program, as well as the associated uh, program reviews, assessment, and program evaluations that come along with the development of a new program. The first thing to consider is what is the campus or what is the educational entity's process for identifying a new program. And there are all kinds of different ways that those happen. But one of the key things you want to consider is how does that, whatever it is, how does it connect with the college mission? Um, does this new idea connect with existing programs? Is it an extension of an existing program? Can it be connected with an existing program? Or is it a new direction for the college? And in some cases, this new direction is a significant change and called um, a substantive change in terms of your accreditation, that you're kind of adjusting your college mission. So, kind of thinking about is it in line with what we're already doing, or is it a departure from what we're doing? And then also, in that, the thing to consider too is the mode of delivery. If we're going to do something that's fully online and we've never done that before, or competency based and we've never done that before, these are also typically set up as substantive changes with Northwest Commission. So it requires you to do a lot of upfront work with accreditation and your board and other things. So those are important considerations to figure out, that is this something that's consistent with your current mission and what you're currently doing, or is this a departure from that? Next is kind of who makes the decision. So, of course, at the level or how much this is a change will probably affect who the decision makers are. If it's a departure from the mission of the college, it's probably a board level decision. Lower changes may be made at the division level or at the dean level or even at the chief academic officer level. Um, so kind of who's in charge of making the decision if we're going to move forward. And if you're the chief academic officer, you're going to need to connect with your budget folks and your student services team to ensure that whatever the new program is that you come up with has the financial support as well as the student services support to make it operate appropriately. Another piece that's important, has budget implications, hiring, faculty implications, is the timeline. How long is it take you to develop, get it through the appropriate approval processes, and kind of at what point do you need to hire staff and faculty to get the program up and running? What are the facilities requirements for that? Are there different things that need to happen in the library? Those are all considerations that you need to kind of plug into the timeline. When you'll start recruiting students, you kind of need to think that all the way through the recruiting to graduation of the students. So that whole process could take quite a while to go through. And then the other thing that you'll need to consider is the budget, both the non-recurring startup costs for the budget and what are the implementation funding. So will this program be self-supporting after it's up and running, or will you need to continue to find funding for this program even after it's up and running? You know, all the equipment is purchased and the facilities and faculty are hired, but you'll still need additional money. So you need to kind of have that figured out too. So what are some of the drivers to have new programs? So sometimes a college or entity will get industry requests. Maybe there's a new industry in town. At South Seattle, we had Boeing come to us and ask to develop a composites program. So that was kind of also covers number two. Two is kind of this new and emerging field. So some of the things that are coming around that are medical informatics and things that didn't exist 10 years ago and now are actual job areas. Sometimes requests from students. So we might have a group of students that are saying, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had this program or the next level program or some companion program? So it might be some groundswell from students asking for something. Often faculty are in the know and have a good sense as to what some new programs that might relate to their current program that they're delivering, and they may make suggestions about possible new programs. Another one is sometimes there's funding for certain programs. So the state or the federal government may say, look, we've got X amount of dollars associated if you want to develop this kind of a program. And then you can kind of make the determination if you're going to accept those funds, then you'll be required to develop the program that's associated with those funds. So sometimes it's kind of a funding piece where either the Gates Foundation or the federal government, state, local government, or others are incentivizing you to develop certain programs, and they're willing to kind of provide the startup money for that. And again, from your perspective as a CIO, you need to think beyond just that startup money and what's the operational cost going to be even after the startup is all done. Is it going to be financially solvent? Will tuition and fees pay? Are there other ways that the program will be solvent, or are you going to have to figure out how to take some money out of the general fund to supplement the program to keep it up and running? So that's an important piece. Your campus strategic plan or your district strategic plan, that may be a driver to identify new programs. And following up on that, doing environmental scans to see what's missing, how you're serving your community. That may be another venue that will help you identify potential new programs that you should consider. Other ideas may be legislative direction or encouragement from the legislature of programs that they would like to see. And again, that's typically tied to funding, but not always. Occasionally the legislature will determine that they want to see a certain program and pass something, and you're going to have to figure that out as a college just to be able to do that. And then there are other kinds of unmet needs that are out there that come at you from other directions. So in your role as a chief academic officer, you're going to see programs coming at you from all these different directions, and you're going to be involved with making the decisions on how to move these forward and what the budget implications and campus-wide curriculum implications are around these kinds of decisions. So again, a real important consideration is how this new program that you're considering helps move the college towards mission fulfillment, and kind of making that case for that this is doing that. Or conversely, if it's really clearly not headed towards the current mission of the college, is the demand or is the funding or are these other things that we talked about on the previous slides sufficient enough to give you cause to consider changing or amending the mission so that this new program will fit within the mission of the college? And third one to kind of consider too is how would this new program connect and extend current programming? So sometimes you're thinking about starting a new degree, but maybe you could do a certificate or a minor degree or some other piece that would not be quite as costly, and you could kind of try this out and see how the enrollment went and if students were really able to get jobs or whatever the other kind of goals of the program were. If that worked out at kind of the certificate level, then you could kind of think about a larger investment in terms of a full program. So that's another kind of consideration to think about, starting off smaller and then engaging. Again, there's a lot of folks involved with this. The financial implications can be pretty big starting a new program. And so kind of it's important to know who's making the decisions. And is that a local decision? Is it a state level? Is it campus? Can the decision be made at the program? And then typically there's some kind of early idea where the idea is floated up. Maybe some data is gathered around demand and cost for the program. And that may come to you or some other body to kind of say, oh, yeah, this is something we want to do. Or it might give you an opportunity to say, well, let's hold it. Let's not put a lot of resources into this program. And again, if you're the chief academic officer, what you don't want to have happen is that somebody goes out and basically develops the whole program and drops it at your on your desk and say, well, here it is. And, they've spent a whole bunch of money, and then you have the task of saying, well, this doesn't fit our mission, or that we don't have the funding for this, or other items. So the idea to have some sort of process in place that provides a preliminary opportunity for you and other decision makers to see if this should move forward, and the resources and time and energy and the pressure that gets put on once that has done, that folks have gone out and met with outside stakeholders, community stakeholders, and made tacit commitments with those stakeholders. You really want to know that you know that's going on and what's happening, and you're supportive of that. And then again, at what level are curriculum committees involved? When do they, what's the timeline? When is the curriculum committee going to make decisions? How does that process work? Are they involved with the development? Do they just do the final sign-off? Do they do multiple sign-offs? So how does that all work? And again, a challenge would be to go have a program all developed and then have the curriculum committee kind of say, oh, no, this is not a good idea. So how to work all of that is important too. Again, the finance people on campus, they're important constituents in this, and you really want to make sure that you have worked with them and understand the budget implications across the campus on what the costs are. Again, both the initial upfront development costs as well as the sustaining or operational costs, and how are both of those covered? So do you have grants to cover the initial cost, and then tuition and fees will cover the ongoing costs? How does that work? So working with your business and finance people to make sure that you're connecting with that. And then are there other pieces of the campus that you need to fund through having this program? Do you need to provide funding to the student services? Do you need to provide funding to the library? Do you need to provide funding for support services, custodial services, IT services, all of those other considerations that the costs are that go up once you start putting more students on campus. So those are all important pieces. How is the community involved? When do you let them know? How do you connect with them? And how do you ensure that that's not going to be a surprise to the community out there that you're starting a program? And then how you connect with just other people, other constituents on campus, your other campuses, your other colleges across the state or region, and make sure you're not in competition with them. And of course, that's a pretty big issue, to make sure that you're not going to receive some sort of protest from other colleges across the state. So make sure and work all that up front. Well, I'm going to sign off for now, and we will come back and talk about timeline implementation next.